Hey gamers, what's up? Okay, so I saw something really funny that I wanted to talk about real quick. The Guardian just did a video about video game violence, blah, blah, blah. It's the typical same old, jargon, ridiculousness, misinformation, same old thing. You know how it is. And they've covered the most popular video games of 2012, and they compiled a list of 50, and they compared all the violences, and they gave you this great little chart, and I thought it was really funny and worth talking about. So the first thing we have to do is determine some of the facts in the video. They talk about, let's see, by their own chart, first and foremost, 64% of the games on the list, I did the math, were not M-rated. So they're talking about violence in games that aren't even M-rated. We're talking about cartoon violence, comic mischief, that sort of thing. And I think it's really unfair to even include those games. I mean, and then start trying to supply us with information about violence when you're counting cartoon violence as violence. It's ridiculous. 62% didn't have guns in them at all. Included on this list are Gran Turismo, Connected Ventures, Forza 4, Wii Sports, Mario Party, Animal Crossing, Lego Batman, Pokemon. We're talking about a list of games, and they're trying to show us the violence in games, and they're including these games that are not violent, that people let 5-year-olds play. And what they're doing is they're causing that fear. They're sending that fear out to the masses through the media, saying, be scared, these games, they'll teach your kids violence, and they'll make your kid violent, And sure, they're not actually using those words, but that's the message they're sending, and when they send that message, what happens? It hurts the industry as a whole. They're twisting the facts. They're putting a spin on it and making it seem like it's something it's not. Let's go ahead and watch the video. I think you'll find this very interesting.
President Obama said more research was needed to determine the relationship between violence in video games and real-life gun violence.
Okay, first off, stop. Let me stop you right there. There is no connection between a video game and real life gun violence, and there's never been a correlation between the two. First and foremost, anyone who's ever fired a gun knows that a video game is nothing like the real thing, just as driving a car in a video game is not like the real thing. And that's something that people really need to learn to distinguish the difference between, because I'm so sick of every single time this issue comes up, that's what they say. And I wonder, have you ever fired a gun? Have you ever held a gun? Do you know the difference between this and this? It's vastly different, folks. And even holding the Wiimote out and shooting, or even holding a Nintendo Light Zapper out and shooting, it's not like the real thing. You don't need to use breath control. You don't need to, aim the way you aim with a real pistol. It's just not the same. Anyone who says it is has never fired a gun in real life. Let's continue. Let's go on with this.
The research done so far has been inconclusive.
Inconclusive? Well, what do you know? Wasn't I just saying that like a minute ago? Come on, of course it's inconclusive. It's inconclusive because there is no connection. Guess what? Kids are rambunctious.
But a Guardian look into the top 50 video games of 2012 shows a wide range of violence, weapons, and the warnings that go with them. Of the 50 games we looked at, almost 2/3 are considered violent.
2/3 have violence, but as I said earlier, 64% of them aren't even M-rated. So that just shows you, once again, that spin they're trying to put on the games, the fear they're trying to put into your heart, they're trying to make you say, ooh, what are these video game developers up to? It's terrible, But they're counting cartoon violence like we see in Pokemon, Mario Party, Skylanders, Super Mario 3D Land, and all these other games. I dare say this is not a very accurate depiction of violence in video games. This whole list is a farce. Comic mischief and cartoon violence, it reminds me of the people who blamed Roadrunner cartoons back in the day when their kids fell down and hurt themselves on the playground, You just can't do it. It's stupid. Let's go on.
They carry labels warning of brute force, blood, or gore. But the labeled games vary widely in their use of weapons and the types of force they depict. Violence in 9 of the games, like the Wii Sports games, is negligible, but they carry warnings because players can engage in swordplay, use cartoon-like bombs, or engage in some comic brutality.
Wait, Wii Sports is listed? Why? She just said it's negligible. Why is it listed then? Why is it listed? Because archery is bad? I don't know. Because boxing is bad? I guess boxing is violent to people, even though it's a sport. You know, I guess we should count football games, Madden, as a violent game too, because it's violent. People clash. Come on. This is ridiculous.
Fantasy games such as the Elder Scrolls include more violence, as players engage in dragon slaying, sword fighting, and can start killing enemies. As the game progresses, players hear screams of pain and see splashes of blood.
Dragon slaying? Oh, kid, that came away from that kid. Screams of pain, splashes of blood. Oh my God, it's an M-rated game. Oh, what are we gonna do? Let's go.
But the enemies in this genre are often aliens or other strange creatures.
Aliens in Elder Scrolls. Honey, you did your homework, didn't you?
There are games that blur the line between fantasy violence and more realistic depictions. Borderlands 2 is a first-person shooter game that takes place on a fictional planet, where firefights contain realistic weapons, blood, and severed limbs. The game's trailer touts the 87 bazillion firearms available to players as they gain experience and skill.
Does she really think there are 87 bazillion weapons? Did she just quote that? I wonder if she realizes that bazillion isn't a real number. I guess it's a good thing it didn't say gazillion on the box, because if it said gazillion, the game would be even more violent. That'd be really bad. Oh, wait. We're getting a report from the field. Field reporter Dr. Evil is here to tell us how many weapons are actually in Borderlands 2.
1 billion, gajillion, fifillion, million.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm glad we solved that one. Yeah.
But the most popular game of 2012 is perhaps also the most realistically violent.
Most realistically violent? I beg to differ, because Hitman Absolution is on that list. And Hitman Absolution is a very realistic game in terms of what you can do. You can garrote people, you can shoot people, you can set bombs. It's all very stealthy. The idea is sending fear to the masses. A game like Hitman doesn't strike fear into the heart of parents and politicians everywhere, whereas the name Call of Duty does. It's a game that all their kids have. It's the game they see on the shelves everywhere, so they throw the popular title at you, not the more violent one. Actually, on their list, I believe Call of Duty had 12 violent points, and Hitman Absolution had 14. So right there, you're already beginning to see that piece of media bias that really shows they're leaning their article in one direction or the other, and in this case, it's a negative direction they're going, and a scapegoating method that they're trying to employ against video games to make the populace scared and to make them think that developers and publishers are up to something evil or nefarious.
Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which sold more than 20 million units last year.
20 million whole copies? Well, in that case, I guess we should just drop this whole argument right now. I didn't realize it was 20 million copies. What is that? 0.28% of the world. I mean, it must be chaos out there, madness. People are killing people in the streets. It's nuts. No. 0.28% of the world owns Call of Duty.
Takes place in present-day international locations, where players control U.S. soldiers as they complete warlike missions. Scenes include decapitated and dismembered bodies and watching combatants burn alive. The chart below illustrates the connections between these games, the weapons, and
the content. It's really sad, because you have to be 18 to join the army, right? But you have to be 17 to play an M-rated game. Think about that. There's that 1 year difference. Is that 1 year difference what's killing us? Is it that these games are somehow infecting the minds of that between 17 and 18-year-old? No. It's really not the case. It's the fact that these kids are getting their hands on these games, and people blame the games for anything the kids do wrong. Well, guess what kids do wrong? Remember when you saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when you were a kid, or you watched a Jet Li movie, or an action flick, and you went out and you were like, I'm a kung fu master, ha ha ha. But guess what? Watching that movie doesn't make you a kung fu master, nor does watching a violent video game make you an expert marksman or a violent individual. It's a preposterous notion. We all know that's not the case. Since when did watching a video make you proficient at something? If you watch the Super Bowl, are you suddenly a Super Bowl champion quarterback? No, you're not. If you watch a Jet Li movie, are you a world-class martial artist? Absolutely not. If you watch a video about marksmen, can you go out and lay down targets at a range at 400 meters? Absolutely not, because it takes years of work and practice, and watching a movie or playing a video game is nothing like doing the real thing. It's not a training method, and it doesn't change the chemical composition of your mind and make you a raging psychopath. That's the problem, and that's what people need to understand, because they don't, that's not what's happening. When it comes right down to it, it's down to parenting. Parents need to learn to teach their kids right and wrong, because someday your kid is going to pick up a stick and he's going to know, I can hit something with this stick, and if I hit something with it, I'm going to cause it pain. And at that point, that kid needs to learn personal responsibility for his or her actions, and the parents need to learn to teach their kids right from wrong. That's the problem with the world today. No one's doing it. Instead, they're trying to find scapegoats, video games, movies, music, whatever, and it's pathetic. Teach your kids and you won't have problems. And if you don't like a video game, don't buy it for them. These are M-rated games, folks. There's an M right on the front. On the back, there's a thing that tells you why. Gore, violence, blood, drug use, nudity, sexual content, everything. It's all right there. They tell you what's in the game. Why are you buying it for your kids if you don't like it? And if you're going to use it as a scapegoat later on? Because that's really stupid, isn't it? And that's all I have to say right now. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to check out Nerdco. It's a new series of videos we've been doing. It's been really spectacular. We just posted episode 5. We're doing a lot of things. It's got Sleazy E from Nerdco in it, me from Nerdco, Josh Irish from Geeks Podcast and Nerdco. We're doing multiple segments per episode, skits. I mean, it's really fun stuff. It's done in a whole new format, and I'm really proud of the work we've been doing. And if you want to see that, check out nerdko.com or geekspodcast.com, and be sure to subscribe to both of us right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all later. You know, it's funny, when I was 18, I joined the Army, and I'm a veteran now. And everyone, when they find out I was in the Army, they say to me something like, "Oh, thanks for your service." You know, I was trained to kill. I was trained to be violent. I was trained to be a murderer. Remember that when you buy your kid a violent game and then they do something wrong and you're like, oh, you're terrible because you played this game. You take people who have trained to be violent, and you thank them. And then when your kid acts up, you condemn them for being violent. Isn't that a weird hypocrisy?